I kind of feel like I'm the Eddie Harris on this platform, where this platform is a young man's game and I'm just the old man trying to stick around probably longer than he should. That being said, on YouTube, I don't think Crisco, Bardol, or Vagisil is going to give me any type of advantage. Up your butt, YouTube. Hey everybody, what's going on? Today we're going to be talking about some baseball, some late 80s baseball, well, in movie form. Today we are going to be talking about 1989's Major League, starring Tom Berenger, Charlie Sheen, Corbin Burnson, Margaret Whitten, James Gammon, Renee Russo, Wesley Snipes, Chelsea Ross, Dennis Haysbert, Bob Uecker, and others. I will warn you, there's probably going to be spoilers in this review, but this movie's been out long enough. I will say this. While some parts of this movie have not aged well, I'm looking at you, Chief Wahoo. The movie is still a very entertaining baseball movie. Now, it's an R-rated, feel-good baseball movie, so it's definitely not one for the kids. But it definitely deals with some more R-rated material, some language, some sex things. So. Yeah, definitely not one for the kids, but for the adults, you know what? I watched it again the other day. I hadn't seen it in a long time, and a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it still aged pretty well. So if you want my recommendation, as of the filming of this review, it's on Amazon Prime. So if you want to see it, it's on there right now. What this movie is about is the new owner of the Cleveland Indians. Her name is Rachel Phelps. She's a former showgirl, and she married the owner. Well, the owner passed away, and she took advantage or took control of the team. The thing is, she hates Cleveland. So her plan is to put together a team so bad that they finish dead last, that not a lot of people come to the stadium to see them, because if they fall below a certain total amount of people coming to the stadium, she will be able to move the team out of the city, and Miami is willing to build her a new stadium. So she wants to move the Cleveland Indians to Miami. So she puts together this horrible team of has-beens and never-wases, and one not even invited to camp. So she brings them together, and when these guys, they start off bad, but when they finally realize what's going on, they get that big rah-rah moment. We got to come together, because they're definitely, a lot of them aren't friendly with each other. But they have this big rah-rah moment of, we got to win everything and stick it to the boss, right? And that's kind of the point of the movie. And the movie ends up going to, it doesn't go to the World Series. It goes to a tie game that will lead them to the playoffs. So what you have here is this ragtag team, and they have to defeat their nemesis, the Yankees, who always gives them problem throughout the whole movie. So, okay, the first thing, as I mentioned before, some things don't age well. The motivation they use, it's silly. I think it's funny, and I don't think it's too distasteful, but the motivation they use for winning these games is they have a cardboard cutout that they start to unveil, and you can see the legs and you can see the dress, and they're all excited, and then they uncover the face, and it's Rachel Phelps. And what it is every time they win a game, they peel off a piece of her dress, so she ends up being practically naked by the time they're winning the games. Some people might see that is kind of distasteful. For me, it was like, well, her character is this terrible person, and they're just kind of taking a pot shot at her by doing this. So there is that. And then again, having Chief Wahoo, the logo, which Cleveland has gotten rid of, the mascot with the big Native American head, it's in this. So it's really a timepiece, because yeah, it's going to have that imagery, but, just ignore it. It's gone now. And, you have, you're really here for the humor and the characters. And that's really this movie's biggest advantage is a lot of the jokes land. A lot of those jokes are very funny. There's jokes that people are playing on each other. There's just stupid, silly humor involving the characters. So the humor, for the most part, still works. One thing, I'm fine with it, and it is a big part of the story. The love story between Tom Berenger's character and Renee Russo's character, it's fine. I'm not saying it's bad or anything, but, and it does play into Berenger's character's redemption arc because he had cheated on her years ago. They were in love. They were both athletes. He cheated on her. And now he's just trying to get his life back together because his knees are all messed up. He's a catcher. His knees are all messed up. He's just trying to put his life back together, and he still loves her. So, and that the story works. It's just the overall characters for me is a bigger part of it than that story. The baseball part of it for me was a better part of it than that story. But the story still fits and it's fine. But the strongest part of this movie is by far the characters. Tom Berenger's in a way, he's kind of the straight man to everybody else because he's probably the most identifiable one because he's the one who has ruined his life and he's trying to get his life back together. He does have a few scenes where he has to let loose a little bit. We'll go into Corbin Burnsen's character, Roger Dorn. He's a high-priced player, but he almost took one in the eye, a line drive in the eye, and now he plays it way too safe, so he won't dive at balls and things like that. He's a third baseman, and so he almost loses a game for him, and Tom Berenger just goes to his house, talks real nice to him, and then threatens him very, very vulgarly. So Tom Berenger's character, Jake Taylor, does get to let loose a little bit. But yeah, I talked about Roger Dorn, Corbin Burnsen's character. His character kind of has to remember what it was like just to be a ball player and not thinking about life after baseball, where he's in the financial sector and the housing sector, and he's caring more about that than he's still trying to play ball, but he's already kind of at the time has moved on, even though he's still there. Charlie Sheen is probably the most well-known actor in this when it comes to his character, Ricky Vaughn, Wild Thing Vaughn. He has a massively fast fastball, but he has control issues, and they figure out what the control issues are later. He's an ex-con. He's rough around the edges. He's always threatening to beat people up. Him and Corbin Burnsen's character have some issues during this movie, and it definitely leads to some personal issues in this movie. But the two of them, despite their issues, of course, as the team is coming together, they have to come together despite their issues. Margaret Whitten is Rachel Phelps. She is just despicable as the owner of the team. Anything she can do, anything she can take away from them to help them lose, she will do. And she's one of those characters that you're so happy when she finally loses. One of my favorite parts of this movie is James Gammon as Lou Brown, the manager. He's just no nonsense. I don't take crap from anybody manager. There's a scene where he's cursing out Rachel Phelps, and she ends up being in the locker room, and he's buck naked, and she's like, shouldn't you cover that up? And he's just like, I'm too old to be to be jumping behind lockers. Yeah, he's just a no nonsense kind of character. When Corbin Burnsen's character, he makes the players do calisthenics anytime they mess up, and Corbin Burnsen, if he lets a ball get by him, he has to do sit-ups, I think it is. And he goes, this is in my contract. I don't have to do calisthenics. I don't want to. And without saying a word, Lou Brown, James Gammon's character, throws the contract on the ground and takes a leak on it and just walks away. And it's just that kind of that kind of character. He's just so much fun to watch. Renee Russo, again, she was in a love story. Her character's in a love story with Tom Berenger's character. I like her a lot in this movie. This is one of her earliest movies, and a lot of people, look, Renee Russo is definitely a very talented actress, and definitely one that a lot of people have had a crush on over the years. And a lot of people pick some of her later movies where they discovered, quote unquote, Renee Russo and had a crush on her. Nah, it was this one for me. I really did like her in this a lot, and I've liked her ever since. I've seen her in lots of things since this movie, and I still like her to this day. Wesley Snipes, he's one of my favorite characters in this. He is not invited to spring training, but he just kind of sneaks in. They take him out, but it comes to find out he's really, really fast. So they invite him to camp. But then it turns out he can run really well, but he can't hit. And anytime he hits a pop fly, he has to do push-ups. So that leads to some funny situations. And his whole thing is he's the speedster, he's the leadoff hitter, he's got to get on base and try to leg him out and then try to steal bases and things. And Wesley Snipes, fantastic in this. Chelsea Ross is Eddie Harris. He's the old man trying to stick around. He's the old pitcher, and he cheats a lot. He has, as I mentioned in the intro, he has different products on his person that he can load up the ball, and he talks about loading the ball up with snot and everything. And he's just very fun to watch because he's very fun to watch because he deals with Dennis Haysbert's character, probably my favorite character in this, if I'm being honest. Pedro Serrano. He wanted religious freedom, and his religion is voodoo. And it leads to some of the best scenes, him and Chelsea Ross's back and forth when it comes to Jobu's rum, and that leads to a very funny scene. But they end up, again, like other characters, they're at odds, but they have to work together in the end. And Pedro Serrano, his main thing is he's praying to Jobu to help him hit. He can only hit fastballs. If anyone throws him a breaking ball or a curveball or a changeup, he can't hit it. So his thing is, and at least in one of my favorite scenes in the movie, one of the best scenes in the movie, where he tells Jobu that, in not so nice a way, that if you don't help me now, I'm going to do it myself. And I can't really say those words. I don't want to say those words on YouTube and then them get mad at me. But it's very funny. But him and, again, Chelsea Ross's characters having to work together in the end, especially after Eddie Harris, Chelsea Ross's character, after he learns his lesson. Let's just say he learns his lesson by not taking from Jobu. Lastly, for characters, the great Bob Euchers, Harry Doyle. He is the announcer of the team. Just a lot of funny commentary from him. He's Bob Euchre, and if you know Bob Euchre as a funny announcer, you know exactly what you're going to get, and he's amazing in this. So really, okay, as for story, it's your typical, underdog sports story, really. They have to come from the bottom and make it to the top and try to beat the top team that they had trouble with the entire time. You've seen many movies like this, but that being said, with all the characters we have, that makes that story interesting. It's fun to watch the city of Cleveland first. When they come out, they're just like, this team's crap. No, this team's not too bad. And then everybody's cheering for him. In some ways, it's almost hypocritical. It's like, shouldn't you be a fan already? It's like, oh, now they're good. Now you're going to root for them. And I've always had a little bit of a problem with that with sports. It's like, oh, someone will say, oh, I'm a whatever team is good right now fan. It's like, well, pick a team and stick with them. I'm a Cubs fan. I like the White Sox too. I'm kind of a Chicago fan, but I root for the Cubs over everything. White Sox next, right? When it comes to baseball. When they're not doing good, and especially the Cubs, when they're not doing good, I'm still a fan. And it's like everyone's like, yeah, in this movie, I'm a Cleveland Indians fan now, and it's like, you weren't a few months ago. But it's a feel-good moment because it kind of brings the city together, too, because, again, there's this whole thing with the owner wanting to move them out of the city. So, in the end, Major League is a solid R-rated baseball comedy, and I do recommend it. It's a lot of fun. Again, some things don't hold up so well, but for the most part, it still holds up as a pretty decent comedy, and I do recommend it. And again, at the time of the filming of this, it is on Amazon Prime, and you can watch it for free if you'd like. So anyway, until next time, see you later.